Morning guys, welcome back to the resumption of our game. It's a bit of a cloudy day here in Washington today. Just got through a really busy week of work. Did the Washington Half Marathon last Saturday, so I was mainly in recovery all week with really aching legs. But anyway, that went pretty successfully. Managed to drag the ancient bones around the course, so pleased with that. But now a chance to get back to a bit more gaming. If you can remember, we've done the first 4 turns of the Battle of Howells Farm, a fictionalised scenario for Pickett's Charge, another set of rules by Dave Brown of General Dame fame. This is quite similar to General Dame 1, so apologies if I sort of intermix the rules a little bit. I'll try my very best to use the right set for this game. Where we left it was with a major Union assault looking to take place here in the centre. And we've got a flanking attack by the rebels going over here on the right, which is a bit of a spoiling attack, really, disrupting the second element of the Union assault. But the first thing, before we get started in this turn, we've got the opportunity for the rebels to call in their reserves, the Texas Brigade. So on this first opportunity to roll at the beginning of turn 5, the rebels need a 6 to get the Texas Brigade in. There we go, roll a 2. So the Texas Brigade is not yet available, will not come on next turn. All right, let's kick off with rolling for initiative. So Rebs still have 3 brigades on the table, and their Union have 5. Okay, Unions do pretty well. We get 2 4s, 2 6s. So that means we get a bonus dice. That takes them up to 5 staff officers. And for the rebels, we just have 2. All right, we will allocate those staff officers and then roll for brigade activation. Right, let's roll for rebel activation first. They've gone for artillery assault against that gun battery in the centre of the screen. They've only taken 3 casualties, so they can still do artillery assault. We have no re-roll for this though, but it goes off. So we have activation and artillery assault on the Georgia Brigade in the centre. Let's roll for the Alabama Brigade. They get a 6. They're active. And then for our Georgian Brigade on the right are active. So all rebel brigades are active. All right, for the Union, our left-hand brigade behind the guns here, they're going to start moving up to put pressure on the Alabama. So they're going to start their assault here, but it's not our priority. So yeah, actually, I think we might put a forwards order on this brigade. So we're going to put a forwards order on that brigade. Let's see how we do. We roll a 1, but we do have a re-roll on that brigade. We allocated 3 staff officers there and a 3. Yeah, so we got forwards on this brigade on the right. So that will allow us to accelerate the assault on that flank. All right, we're going to try an attack with our brigade in the centre. They're going to try and drive off these rebel skirmishers. They're going to be looking at charging. We do have a re-roll on them. And we go off, so we are active in the centre. All right, the reserve in the centre has no ADC, staff officer, but it also rolls a 3. So it's gone active. And then we'll roll for our Zouaves. They are active. And then our Irish Brigade, which has got a re-roll, is also active. So both Union and Rebels are fully active in this first turn. And we just need to roll for initiative. Confederates had it, I think, from memory last time, but they roll a double 1. That's terrible. Unions roll a 6. So this Union assault, which has been building for all these turns, will go first. All right, charges to declare. I think we've got quite a few charges. For the Union. I'm going to start on the right, I think, here. I'm going to charge with the Irish Brigade, these veterans, I think. Despite there are 2 fences to go through, which might well disorder them, we're going to have a go at charging that unformed Georgian unit in the woods. All right, let's do that charge first. Let's roll for the first Union regiment of the Irish Brigade crossing that fence line. It needs a formation test to cross it successfully. It rolls an 8. It's a veteran brigade, so that means that's a successful move. So they manage to cross that fence line, and then they run up against this second fence line. Right, that'll be a second formation test as they charge across this second fence. Let's see what they do. And they roll a 7, so that's successful. So they charge across both of those fence lines, and their supports will move up with them. They will also have to do a formation test to cross this first fence line. They're also veterans. They roll a 6, so they are formed as well. So that charge goes in. We've got a defensive volley with those Georgians. They are in arc, and they can see, but I think they're partially obscured because these elements on the right of the Georgian line, as we're looking at it, are hidden in the woods. So I think we'll have to do this as an inferior volley, because, or at least give the let's give the Union troops cover as they charge up across these fence lines. All right, so we'll do the defensive volley for the Georgians over here on the right. Sorry for the camera, the autofocus flicking in and out there. So they are a large regiment. That will give them 2 extra combat dice. But they are unformed, so that's -2 to the roll. They are a green regiment, so that makes it up to a cumulative -3. And we're giving the Unions cover because of all the woods that are interfering with those shots. So it'll be -4 on the red dice. And that is that's a -1, so that's not great. But they do get 1 from the casualty dice, so that will take those Union troops up to 4 casualties. Sorry, one casualty on the Union troops. That will not be sufficient to have an impact on the charge. Right, let's do the charge results now. So we're a veteran regiment, so that is no modifier. And we suffered less than 2 casualties in the charge. So that'll be a straight roll for the Union veteran troops. So the defenders are green, so they'll be on a -1. They are also unformed. That takes them to -3. They're not hesitant, they're not flanked, and they don't have more than 4 casualties. So it'll be a -3 on the Confederate roll. So the Confederates roll a 7, that goes down to a 4, and the Union are on a 6. So the Union have a support, so they're going to re-roll their 1. Wow, that takes them up to 11. I think the Confederates are also going to have to do a re-roll. This will be on a -1 because their supporting regiment is also unformed. That's better, so that's a 5, goes down to a 4. So that's an 11 v an 8. So it's a +3. So the charge results are press on or take the ground, and the defenders are whipped and their supports have to retire. Okay, so the Confederate forces are driven back. The unit that's whipped has fallen back 18 inches. Only 1 unit in that brigade, though, is whipped. I think you need 2 for it to be a faltering brigade. So that brigade's still intact, but 1 unit is whipped. The other unit has retired. Both of those Reb units are unformed. The Irish have followed up. They remain formed, and the supporting brigade has also moved forward, and it passed another discipline test to cross the second fence. So the Irish brigade is making decent progress on that right-hand flank. That's the first charge for the Union. All right, we're going to switch across to the left now, and we're going to charge with both of these formed second lines of this Union brigade. They're going up against the Reb skirmishers. We'll see if the skirmishers may get a set of fire to try and push back these Union troops. We'll also check when you're charging through a skirmish line whether you have to take a test to go unformed. Given they're skirmishers, that feels pretty unlikely to me, but I'll just check those 2 rules. The Rebs will then fire, and then they will evade these oncoming Union troops. All right, as we suspected, our Union troops can charge through their own skirmish lines. No penalty for doing that. The evaders cannot fire before they evade. They need to take a discipline test. If they fail the discipline test, or a see the elephant test as it's called in Pickett's charge, they will take 1d3 casualties and will count as retreating. We'll start with we'll roll both together. The reds will be the unit on the right, the blues will be the unit on the left. Okay, the unit on the right fails its see the elephant test. It will take 1 casualty and it has to retreat. The other unit will evade. All right, we'll just go and do that movement and move the charges up. Okay, so success for the Union. The right-hand regiment remained formed, crossing that fence line as it charged forward and has moved up behind that small barn. The left-hand regiment, also successful in charging home, it drove off the Alabama skirmishers. The left-hand regiment, as you saw, evaded. The right-hand regiment was whipped and is forming up, or hopefully will form up behind the farm buildings. The left-hand regiment of the Union went unformed as it crossed that fence line. So that's charges done in the right. And then our final charge, we're going to have a charge with the formed unit of Zouaves. They're going to charge the Georgian regiment to their front. Again, they've got to take a test for charging through the woods. They go unformed. All right, we'll move them up and they will charge unformed. There'll be a defensive fire, probably from both those Georgian regiments. All right, so the 146th New York has charged through the 140th New York Zouaves. There will be some defensive fire. The Zouaves are still in the light woods at the 3-inch point, so they will get a -1 to the firing by the 2 Georgian regiments. Both the Georgian regiments are regulars. So again, the red dice that we roll here will be for the right-hand Georgian regiment, the blues for the left. Pretty good rolls. So we roll an 8 for the volley. So not large, not regiment, haven't moved, no casualties, targets in cover. So that's -1. So -1 off these rolls. So for the left-hand regiment, they roll a 6 for a standard volley is 1 casualty. And for the right-hand regiment, it's a 7. So that's 3 casualties on the charging 146th New York, which will impact the charge results, but no discipline test. All right, let's roll for the charge. All right, so we do the charge. 146th New York Zouaves charge in against the Georgians, supported by the 155th Pennsylvania. And the 155th remained formed, even though the 146th went unformed. So there will be a full re-roll for that support. For the Georgians, looks like their support is more than 3 inches back, so some bad placement there. They do have a support, but badly deployed. So there will be no re-roll for the Georgians as they have used their supporting regiment to give defensive fire. All right, let's roll. It'll be -3 on the Union troops, but they roll a double 6, so that will be a serendipity test. Let's roll what the serendipity test is. They roll a 7, so it's a crack regiment. So they, we'll just read that. Hang on a second. I'll come back, see what a 7 means. Okay, so the Georgians would be caught out by the charge, which indeed they have been, and would lose a support reroll. They don't have a support reroll anyway, so that is ignored. So the Unions have rolled double 6. That goes from a 12 to a 9 in the charge results, and the Rebs rolled a 7. So that's a charge result of +2 for the Union. So they have done pretty well. On a +2, they halt and volley, and they roll 5 dice for being a regular-sized regiment, 4 5s or 6s to cause casualties. So they cause 3 casualties on the Georgians, and we stop and will be engaging in a firefight there. All right, that's all of the Union charges done. I'll mark up those 3 casualties, and then we'll look at whether there are any rebel charges in response to this Union movement. All right, so no rebel movement, no rebel charges rather. So we'll just crack on with movement. We'll start over here on the left. I'll do all the movement and then come back and give you a recap of where everyone's gone to. We've got a forwards order on the left, so hopefully we'll keep putting pressure on this left-hand side of the rebel line. All right, so quite a lot of Union movement for the Union. So we had our brigade sitting in reserve by these guns. Given the number of casualties taken on the left-hand gun, we've decided we're not going to bothered about masking that anymore. So we had launched an assault here. We had the forwards order. We rolled up to 29 inches of movement with that forwards order and our normal line advance. So this this brigade really has been motoring forward here on the far rebel left, threatening the flank of their position. The forward brigade on the far left was behind the guns. These other two battalions have swung up in support. The 1st and 3rd brigades are still formed, but the 2nd regiment went unformed, crossing the fence line. On the right here, the 3 further regiments of this brigade moved out. 2 of those have unformed themselves, moving forward, but they are now threatening the rebel guns. In support of the rebel guns, the rebel infantry regiment, you can see now formed up to the left-hand side of those guns, moved up in support of the gun battery in their movement phase. In the centre, the skirmishers who were charged through have then, in their own movement phase, moved forward to re-establish their skirmish line and put some pressure on those Reb skirmishers you can see in front of them. And on the right, the other regiment of Reb skirmishers has moved up to put some pressure on that Confederate battery, which does have artillery assault. Otherwise, for the rebels, the units either fled from charges or evaded or don't want to move out of that farm building. So the Reb position on the left looking a little bit weak. So we pull back a bit. We had our forward brigade which charged and is pressuring the Reb lines. Our 2nd Reserve Brigade has also moved forward successfully into a strong supporting position. On the right, the Irish Brigade has moved up to support the 2 regiments that charged, and we managed to reform our Zouave skirmishers of the 140th New York, so they're now formed up in line. But unfortunately, our 5th Maine down here on the right failed their discipline test. They were unable to form up, so they just remain in skirmish formation at the back of the table. The Rebs responded by moving their sharpshooters across to try and put some annoying fire into the flank of the Irish Brigade, but I don't think probably enough pressure to do much difference. All right, that's it for movement. Pressure now all along the battle line. Let's do some firing. All right, starting over on the far left, we've got the 2 front regiments that will open fire. They are going to, 1st Regiment will fire. It moves. This will be a shot at -2 against that rebel regiment that moved up in support of the gun battery. They roll a 6, that goes down to a 4. For a standard volley will be a loss of fire discipline for that Union regiment. And the one on the right, I don't think will fire because it's firing at deployed artillery, which would be -2. In cover, -3. We're unformed, -5. And we moved, -7. Don't fancy shooting at -7. I don't think that'll be effective. All right, we'll then fire our Reb skirmishers. We've got 6 skirmish bases as we move across the line. They'll lose a dice for firing at the rebel skirmishers there in the farm. Let's see how we do. We roll 2 there at, they at long range. They need to be less than 6 inches for it to be close range. 7, 6. I'll say we need 6s, so no effect from that rebel firing. And then we've got 4 bases going against the gun battery. So skirmisher farm modifiers. Doesn't call out artillery batteries as getting a negative modifier. So we're going to fire at the artillery needing 6s. They do get 1. That causes an extra casualty on the Confederate gun battery there in the centre. That's it for Union firing this turn. We'll get some return fire from the Rebs now. That was some pretty important firing by the Union skirmishers there. That extra casualty we caused on that rebel battery in the centre has taken it up to 4 casualties. Only 3 away from breaking, and it means it can't use its artillery assault dice this turn, which is a bit of a tragedy for the rebels. All right, we'll now do some return fire by the rebels. Let's start over from left to right. So our rebel regiment that moved up this turn, this will be a shot at -2 against the approaching Union troops. We've rolled a 3. They lose fire discipline. We've got a pair of regiments there that lose fire discipline. Our artillery battery has got 5 casualties. It will fire, however, so this is at close range for the artillery. It'll be at -1 because of the casualties. They're not unformed. I don't believe that battery is low on ammo. I think the other one was. I should have put a marker down, but I didn't. We're firing canister, so we get an extra casualty dice. They're not. That's it. So this will be -1 for the Rebs artillery. Wow, they do well. They get a casualty from the artillery dice with a 6, and then they rolled an 11, which goes down to a 10. So at close range, a 10 is 4 casualties on that attacking regiment. That will go up to 5, and they have to take a see the elephant test. So this test will be at -1 because of the number of casualties they take, and 7 goes down to 6. That means they go unformed. They are already unformed, but they have taken 5 casualties. Great firing from the rebel artillery on that extreme flank. Right now, the rebel skirmishers will fire against the encroaching Union skirmishers. There'll be 4 dice. They roll 1-6. That's 1 casualty here on the rebels. Takes them up to 6 casualties. All right. Then the Reb artillery battery will fire at the skirmishers who are closing in on them. This won't be artillery assault anymore. They've taken 4 casualties, so it'll be a -1. They're firing at skirmishers, so it'll be -3. But they are smoothbore and they are firing canister, so they do get 8 casualty dice. So they roll a 6, that goes down to a 3. That is a fatigue casualty. And they don't get anything. Oh, they do. They get 1 casualty from their artillery dice. So 1 casualty to both sides. That battery is pretty close to having to withdraw. All right, so the rebel infantry unit that moved is also going to fire at those skirmishers. This will be at -3. But they rolled an 11, so that goes down to an 8. It's pretty good firing. That's a standard volley. That will be 2 more casualties on those skirmishers and the see the elephant test. They pass their see the elephant test, but that takes them up to 3 casualties. And then for the final bit of firing, we've got the rebel skirmishers against the flank of the Union Brigade. I'll just put a 3 there to remember to add them to that unit. All right, so they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bases there. They're firing in woods, so that'll be 3 bases at close range, so needing 5s going against the flank of the Irish Brigade. They do 1 more casualty. We'll put that on the 2nd Brigade, as that feels like the one that's facing the majority of the skirmish fire. All right, that's it for firing, and that's the end of turn 4. All right, so for the start to turn 5, how's it looking? So on the right-hand flank, the outflanking manoeuvre by the Confederates has unravelled as they expose themselves to a countercharge by the Irish Brigade that were moving up in support, and that's driven that brigade back. I imagine the Irish will try and charge again. In the centre right, the Irish Brigade continues to move up in support of the Zouaves. They're in a far fight with the Georgians. That looks a strong defensive position. I think they're just going to take quite a lot of casualties. But I think if we keep putting the pressure on with the Zouaves and the Irish, we can tie up these 2 rebel brigades and concentrate the majority of our Union army to break this rebel position around the farm. Our 2 attacking brigades here have taken very few casualties. The Alabama Brigade is under a lot of pressure, especially with the moving up of that final brigade of the Union effort from behind their gun line. All right, let's see what happens as we move into turn 6, I think this is. We did 4 turns yesterday, we've done 1 turn today. So this will be turn 6. Before we roll for initiative, let's just roll to see if the Texas Brigade are available. Rebs look like they need them now. They need a 5 or a 6. We roll a 4. Texas aren't here, but that's a 50-50 chance they'll arrive next turn. Okay, let's roll for ADCs and activation. So 3 brigades for the Rebels, 5 brigades for the Union. The Union get 4 activations, the Rebels get 3. We'll allocate those and come back with activation. Right, so the Rebs have got a couple of whipped units, so they're going to go for re-rolls on all their 3 brigades, and both their artillery batteries are over 4 casualties, so they can't do artillery assault, and I don't think skirmisher tasking is going to prove that effective. further Union before the Texas brigade come here. It's just going to be push, push, push. So we're going to put re-rolls on all of our units apart from the Zouave brigade, who will just take a risk. All right, let's start with the Union. So left-hand Union brigade is active. Centre left brigade is active. Reserve centre left brigade is active. The Irish brigade is needing its re-roll. It goes hesitant. That's bad news for the Union. And then the Zouave brigade, which didn't have a re-roll, also goes hesitant. So we have the right flank of the Union going hesitant. Perhaps this flanking attack and these skirmishers still pestering them are causing some confusion there. All right, let's roll for the rebels. The Alabama brigade in the farm are active. The Georgian brigade behind the fence line are active. And the raw Georgian brigade is active. Everything active for the rebels. So the rebels have got a +2 on this initiative roll. That takes them up to a 6, but the Union still causes 7. So the Union retain initiative, despite faltering on their right flank. Let's see what they do. Charges first for the Union. Okay, so hopefully you can't hear the food mixer that's going on upstairs. We'll press on. The Union troops done less charges this turn as the Irish unfortunately went hesitant. We did charge in the centre against the farm. Our unformed leading brigade pushed up against the Alabama skirmishers. They passed their See the Elephant test and fell back to the flank of the farm, providing some support to the rebel battery in the centre there. But over on the far left-hand side, the unformed Union troops charged the gun battery, and the formed-up battalion on the left charged the Alabama unit that moved up in support of the guns earlier. So we'll get some defensive fire to kick off. We've got a volley from the Georgians. They are stationary. So no casualties, nothing's in cover, so this will be a standard volley against the charging Union troops. That's a 9, so that's pretty good for a standard volley. That's 3 casualties, and it will be a See the Elephant test on this battalion. Charging over there on the left. Let's do their See the Elephant test. They go unformed, so that will not help their charge results. And then the gun battery will open fire. This will be at -1. But they are firing at close range. They roll a 3 and a 1, so that's no casualties and a fatigue casualty on the guns. That is not good news. All right, we'll come back and do those 2 charge results. All right, for the left-hand charge, it'll be -3 for the Union troops. They have no supports, nor do the rebels, but -3. So that's a 7-7, that goes to a 7-4, so that's a result of -3. So the attackers retire and the Union hold. They're far enough back so they won't unform their supports, but will retire behind the left-hand element of that assault. Right, now let's do the artillery battery. There are supports available for the Confederates on this, for the Union on this. They're on 5 casualties cumulatively, as are the guns, so both are on -1. So the rebels get a 6, which goes down to a 5. The Unions get a 9, that goes down to an 8. So they have won by 3 without any re-rolls. So the gun battery would be whipped. The Union troops can take the ground. I wonder whether we'll try and do a re-roll. We've got 1 re-roll, but it'll be a re-roll at -1, so the best we can get is a 5. I think we'll go for that. I think with the gun battery being whipped, it may well disperse. I'll just check what happens to that gun battery, but success in the right hand. Okay, so irrespective, whipped units lose 1d3 casualties. That means the gun loses an extra casualty. That takes it up to 7. That is that battery then therefore flees the table. It's routed, and that will be a falter test on the Alabama brigade. Right, let's do that movement and complete those charge effects. Right, so on the left, the Union have taken the first element of the rebel position, and the rebels have a faltering brigade. All right, no charges for the rebels. Fleeing units now reform, as all the rebel units will go unformed, as all the rebel units passed their, or brigades passed their activation tests, so they will get a chance to reform. So I'll come back after I've done all the movement. Rebels to move second, Union to move first. All right, so the Union have decided to keep max pressure on, so they've moved up their 2 supporting battalions rather than reforming on the one that had retired this turn. As you saw, we've captured the rebel gun battery and that fortified position. The rebels have moved one of their supporting regiments across to try and cover this right flank. In the centre here, the attacking Union Brigade, which is this regiment, this regiment, this regiment, and these skirmishers have formed up and moved forward to engage the new rebel line around the farm, and we're hoping to use our skirmishers to break this second rebel battery and cause a second Fulter test. Our reserve brigade, which is this battalion, these 6 regiments here in the centre, has moved up. One of them went unformed, but most of them are all formed up. And on the right here, our Zouaves have formed as well. Rebs have formed up in the woods, and generally the Reb reserves have shuffled in a direction to provide support against this upcoming Union attack. All right, that's it for all movement. We'll now do Union firing with their various advancing regiments. So our advancing Union regiments mostly are unformed and moved, so there's lots of negative modifiers against them. So they're not going to be firing this turn, but we will fire with our skirmishers against that rebel gun battery. 3 shots needing 5s or 6s. We cause 1 more casualty on those guns. That takes them up to 6. 1 away from breaking, so only 1 Fulter test there for the rebels this turn. That second gun battery hangs in, but it's only got 1 casualty left. I think they may just have to voluntarily withdraw it to avoid the Fulter. And then we will fire with our Pennsylvanian, was it the Pennsylvanian Zouaves, 155th, who are leading the attack here on the right flank in the woods. In that mass of troops you can see hidden in the woods. Sort of there, yeah. That's a close range volley. The Rebs will get a -1 because they are in cover. All right, let's see how we do. We roll a 7, that goes down to a 6, so for a standard volley that is 1 more casualty against the rebels. That's it for Union firing this turn. I don't think there's any viable targets for the Union artillery, and as we were saying, they've taken a lot of casualties, so we don't want to risk those batteries taking speculative shots. So I'll mark those casualties up, then we'll do the rebel return fire. Okay, we'll start with the rebels in the farm. 5 shots against the Union brigade that's outside their walls, needing 5s or 6s. That's 2 casualties against that rebel brigade. We'll leave that red dice on the table to remember. Rebel Alabama skirmishers, they evaded, they haven't shot, so I think they probably can fire. That will be 5 dice again against that Union regiment that's opposite the Alabama skirmishers. Not such good rolling this time, no hits. The guns we're not going to fire because 1 more casualty, fatigue casualty, will cause a Fulter test, but our Georgian regiment will fire at -2 against that skirmish line that's opposite it. They roll an 8, that goes down to a 6. For a standard volley is 1 casualty against the skirmish line. Pop a dice down to remind myself to put it on, and then the 2 Georgian regiments will open fire. The one on the right is firing at a -1 because it's taken 4 casualties. Firing at the Pennsylvania units that oppose them. So you roll a 5, which goes down to a 4, which is nothing, and an 11. That's pretty good. Pennsylvania are still in the woods, so that'll go down to a 10. But a 10 is 4 more casualties on those Pennsylvania troops, and to see the elephant test on them. This will be at -1 at least. They rolled double 6. They will be fine. All right, I'll mark those casualties up, and that brings turn 6 to a close. Right, so here we are at the end of turn 6. So you can see here the left-hand brigade of the Union troops have seized this artillery battery, got one very exposed Alabama regiment that looks like it could well get overwhelmed this turn. The Union troops are now up against the farm. There's still a reasonable number of Alabama regiments there in good shape, but we do have to take a falter test on the Alabama this turn as they lost that battery. The Georgians are still holding strongly in the centre, and the raw Georgian brigade probably looks okay. Oh, we forgot too far. The Georgian skirmishers against the Irish. Let's just roll for them. That's one more casualty against the Irish. We'll mark that up. But this right flank looks in pretty good shape. God, we need those Texans. Let's see what we can do. We need a 4, 5 or 6. And we roll a 2. Things are not going well for the rebels. Really, on the law of averages, we should have got those Texans this turn. Hopefully we'll get them next turn on a 3+. But I worry for the rebels. And they really got to hang in one more turn of fighting and try and keep this position stable before the reserves arrive. Okay, let's roll for our brigades. Union again do well. And the rebels are in trouble. The rebels have only got one staff officer, so they need that for their faltering brigade. They will have no rerolls at all. For the Union, we've got all 5 staff officers active. Okay, we'll allocate the Union ones and then see how our falter test goes. Okay, so we allocated our 5 staff officers to the Union. We put rerolls on all of our forward brigades apart from on the 2 attacking forward brigades for the Union. We didn't put them on the reserves, and we didn't in the centre here, and we didn't put them on the Zouaves in the wood. So the reserves in the centre have gone hesitant, so we will just turn the command around so I can remember they've gone hesitant there in the centre. So that's this brigade down here. They've gone hesitant. And otherwise, the Pennsylvanian and the 2 other leading Union brigades are all active. We've put a forwards order on our Irish. Let's roll for that. They have got a re-roll as well. And they get a 6. So the Irish will get their forwards order, which I'll probably use as a charge to try and crack the right-hand flank at the same time. Keep the pressure up on the rebels. So we've got that forwards order in play. Now for the Confederates, we will roll the 2 Georgian regiments. They have no re-rolls. Right-hand one is active, that's the Green Regiment, and the Central Regiment is active. So Confederates have both regiments active. Now we need to do the critically important falter test for the Alabama Regiment in the farm. Okay, so they are a regular regiment. Let's see what they roll. They roll a 2. That's terrible. That's withdraw. So the Alabama regiments have to withdraw. So they all fall back 12 inches. They all lose 1 casualty. And the brigade continues to falter. Routed units disperse. So everyone's got to take 1 casualty and fall back at least 12 inches. I will check to see whether they can stay in the farm. All right, I've just checked the rules on faltering and checked the rules on buildings. I can't see anything in this set of rules that says units in buildings are exempted from a withdrawal order. So I will go and move those Alabama regiments, and that division remains in a faltering status. All right, this looks like it's really pretty tough for the rebels now. They've been thrown out of the farm, which was the main objective for this Union assault. That brigade is hanging on the edge of the table. 3 regiments are literally on the table edge. And all 5 of them will go if they don't pass their faltering brigade test next turn. All right, let's see what we roll for initiative. We've got a -1 to both sides. Both have 1 faltering brigade. We roll double 8. I think that's I know that's a draw. Even I could add up. The Union, I think, had initiative last turn, which is what I meant to say. So the Union get act first. Let's see what charges go. All right, just 2 charges this time. The Union brigade in the centre here has wheeled to its right and gone into the flank of that rebel gun battery. They're not long for this world. And the Irish brigade have charged the Green Regiment on here. The lead regiment did go unformed, so that will help the rebels hold it, but we'll see how we do. Let's do these charges first as the Union go in against the flank of the guns. All right, this is not going to go too well for the guns. Doing a charge on the flank gives us a +2. Being charged in the flank gives you a -2. And artillery casualties of 6 also give a further -2. So there's a +6 modifier to this. Having said that, the rebels roll pretty well. They roll an 8, but with a +6 modifier. That's a 10 here. Well, can't get that in focus. All right, and with a 10, with a +4 modifier, they can press on or take the ground. They will take the ground, I think. And the guns have to retire, so they will withdraw off the table because they also have to take 1d3 casualties, and they're already on 6, so on 7 they also break. So the Georgia Brigade will have to do a fight. Right, now fighting on the right flank, we've got the Irish Brigade charging in. They are unformed, so that will take them to -2. They're veterans, so that's no modifier when we're charging. No, before we do that, we need to do a defensive volley. Let's do the defensive volley for the Georgians. So infantry fire modifiers, they're a green regiment, so it'll be -1. They did form up this turn. Did they form up this turn? No, I think they formed up last turn, so they haven't moved. So there's simply a -1 modifier, -2, because they're firing at the Irish Brigade in the woods. But they do get 2 combat dice because they're a large regiment. Let's see how this defensive volley goes. Well, that's pretty good. They get 1 casualty from the artillery dice, and they've rolled a 9, -2 is a 7. So that is 3 casualties on the Irish. So that will be a modifier going in. Let's just see how many casualties they've already got. They've already got 1, so that takes them up to 4. So that'll be a -2 modifier on the Irish's dice roll as they charge in. Both sides have got a support. Both sides have their supports formed up. So the Irish will be on -2 plus another -2 for being unformed. So that'll be -4 on their charge modifier. And it'll be -1 to the Georgians because they are green. Yeah. So this will be a net +3 modifier to the rebels. The Irish roll a 9, the rebels roll a 7, so that is a -1 result. So they will halt, and the Irish will do a volley. It's a standard size regiment, and they cause no casualties, so they will not close to combat. Right, I will mark those casualties up, then we'll see if we've got any rebel counter charges. And then move on to move. Right, movement completed. The Union are continuing to push on the left flank. They haven't bothered to redress their lines. They're just charging forward, maximum speed. Over on the guns reach the woods and the edge of this farm building, pressing the Confederates back off the table. In the centre, our reserve regiment. That was hesitant, wasn't it? I think. Yeah, I need to push them back to the fence line. I've moved them forward inappropriately. I'll adjust that in a second. I forgot. Indeed, there's my backwards commander to remind me. So I'll move those ones back. But the lead regiment has pushed into the farm. It charged the guns. It did have a unit in skirmish formation. The rebels did countercharge against them just to drive them off. So they failed their evade test and have withdrawn. I will restate where these Union troops are, but otherwise on the right, the rebels have simply started adjusting their reserve units in this Georgia Brigade, probably to cover a retreat, to be honest, but also to stop this outflanking movement. I'll just correct the position and show you what it looks like. All right, here's the position corrected. So yeah, still advancing on the left, captured the farm. We've got our reserve brigade here in the centre, moving up to its front lines. We have the 3rd Regiment of this attacking brigade that just flanked the guns, and we still have the pressure on the right as the Zouaves and the Irish Brigade continue to engage these Georgians. All right, that's movement for both sides done. We'll now do some firing. Okay, the Pennsylvanian Zouaves are shot at -1, -2, because the rebs are behind a fence line. A 7 goes down to a 5. That's one casualty on that rebel brigade opposing them. I think that's their firing done. All right, that's it for Union fire. Now for the rebels. Okay, so firstly, the rebel sharpshooters in the woods continue to annoy the Texans. We roll a 6. It's another casualty on the Texans. Whatever we will say, these brigades fighting on the right, these regiments on the right, will find those rebel sharpshooters a continuing annoyance for the rest of the game. Not really an effective way to clear them out. And our 5th Maine, although it has reformed itself right back here, is unable to move forward because it has no commander in range. So no real way of flushing those out unless we divert more of the Irish troops, which we don't really want to do at this stage. All right, so return the fire from the rebels. Reds will be the right-hand regiment. They'll be shooting at -2 against the Pennsylvania Zouaves, and the other regiment, which will be the blue dice on the left, will be just at -1. So the blues are a 4. That is no casualties, and the reds at -2 are a 6. It's 1 casualty on the Pennsylvania, so no major impact there. We will do a volley, I'll mark that up in a second. We'll do a volley by the Georgia regiment. You can just see against the light of the window, against the unit that just overran its guns. This will be at -2 because it did move, but there is a threat to the whole flank, so I don't think they'll hold fire. They roll a 5, that goes down to a 3. They lose fire discipline. It's not going well for the rebels. That's it for the turn. Let's see what happens with ADCs and reserve rolls for the rest of the game. On to turn 8. All right, so the key rolls are going to be on the right here, and it's going to be ADCs. We've got 2 faltering rebel brigades. Let's first see if the Texans are approaching the battlefield, but they won't be able to arrive till next turn. Whatever we roll a 4. Texans are here, so that's encouraging at least. Let's roll how many ADCs the rebels have got. They do roll 3, and they actually get a bonus one of a 4th. I think we're going to have to put that as 2 re-rolls on our 2 faltering brigades. Let's see what the Union get for their 5 brigades. They get 4 ADCs, so they're also in good shape. All right, let's roll those falter tests and see how we do. This will really swing the game one way or another. All right. So the Alabama Brigade teetering on the edge of the table. They roll a 1, so they need their re-roll. They roll a 3, they withdraw. The Alabama have gone, the farm has gone. Any chance of recapturing the farm has gone. All right, now let's roll for the Georgian Brigade that also lost its gun battery last turn. They roll a 6. They do hang on in there, but I think we'll call the game at this point. Texans don't arrive till next turn. The Union will be able to drive off the table pursuing that broken Alabama Brigade. They've outflanked the Georgians, and really this day is theirs. All right, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this game of Pickett's Charge. Final look at the successful Union regiments. I don't know that the artillery we were holding out back here to pummel the Rebs did what was expected, but the big attack in the centre, especially this brigade that's captured the farm with the powerful reserve behind it, put a lot of pressure on the Alabama regiment. Releasing this 3rd brigade to follow up the assault meant that we had 10, 15, 16 regiments attacking 5 Alabama regiments. That did prove enough in terms of waves of assault to break the Alabama positions. On the right, the Irish and the Zouaves really did what we hoped, which was tie up the 2 Georgian brigades, stop them redeploying, and the rebels were really unlucky. The Texans were just too far away to reach the battlefield to swing the outcome. So this was a really heavily loaded assault for the Union. They had 24 regiments against 12 rebel regiments, but at least a Union victory. Hope you've enjoyed this, and see you all again next time.